What's up, y'all? Welcome back to House Rich, the world's best real estate show. Today we're going to talk about the 4-3-2 dream home house hack method. So before we get started, I want to shout out to our sponsor right there, Coins and Culture. So that's the home of the best home buying tips on Instagram. CONIS, like coins, the letter N, the word culture. Follow on IG for the best home buying tips there. Also, second sponsor, House Rich, the official brand of home ownership. I got it on me right now. So appreciate you guys locking in with me. So 4-3-2-1 or 4-3-2 dream home house hacking method. And why I kind of called that and why that's a method to go in. Before we get too deep into it, so folks may say, hey, it's unrealistic to do 4-3-2-1, blah, blah, blah. Once again, it's the theory behind it. It's the understanding of the guidelines that I'm really trying to focus on. 4-3-2 Dream Home is a catchy name, but to focus on the actual guidelines and why you want to go in that order when it comes to purchasing a home. So let's dive into it. Make sure you subscribe to me on YouTube as well and the podcast. If you're enjoying the content, share with a friend. So here we go. So it has to do with underwriting guidelines and using FHA loans. And so when you're going from location to location or from property to property, if you're staying in like the same general jurisdiction or area, you have to be showing that you're upgrading your living standards is really the main thing. And so if you're going from a 4-unit to a 3-unit, that's automatic, it's not questioned. But if you're going from a 3-unit to a 4-unit, that's considered a downgrade of your living conditions. There are certain exceptions, but the thing about those exceptions, you can't get an exception until you get through underwriting. You can't get through underwriting until you're under contract. And so once you're under contract, you're giving out earnest money. And so you don't want to lose that earnest money hoping that the underwriter will give you that exception. So you might as well start high and go low, if that makes sense. So let's talk about a few of those exceptions for when you can go from a 3 to a 4 or 2 to a 4 and it's still considered like upgrading your living conditions. So, and to be clear, you can go lateral for the most part all the time. You can go from a 2 to a 2, a 3 to a 3 or something like that. That's not a big a deal. But if you're increasing the units, the underwriter's gonna be like, hey, this person lives in a property. I'm pretty sure they're trying to buy a bigger unit so that they can commit mortgage fraud, essentially, and turn that into a rental, but only use 3.5% down per FHA guidelines. It's kind of like a hack to get a rental property. So they're not going to allow that. So, shook the camera there. So one thing is, if you are like moving like out of your area, but potentially like closer to the workspace or closer to a place you will be going to on a consistent basis. I mean, typically that place is work, but typically like 50 miles or something is kind of like a ballpark number of what the underwriter looks at as far as, hey, okay, this person lives in, I don't know if you know the area, this person lives in the Dallas area, but they're moving from Plano down to like South Dallas. Okay, that's technically the same area, the DFW area, but it's a considerable distance, especially if that person works in South Dallas. Like, they're cutting an hour off their trip to work or something like that. That could be considered like an exception to the rule. And so underwriters are real particular about this rule right there. Sorry for YouTube adjusting the camera. And so literally what your underwriter do is they'll go to Google and they'll figure out the time it takes to get from point A to point B. So this is behind the scenes. You'll never see this as a homeowner, but the underwriter will literally Google the distance, take a screenshot of it, and put that in the file to say that, hey, I've actually tracked that this person is moving closer to their location. I didn't just kind of take their word for it. So yes, underwriters literally are Googling how far it takes to get from point A to point B when you're doing that. Another exception possibly is if you're going from like a 3-bed or 3-unit or 2-unit, to a 3-unit, like a duplex to a triplex, but maybe one of the units in that triplex is detached. So it's essentially like a standalone home. And so kind of diving to another subject a little bit, but so something considered like a multifamily property based on it being on a certain size lot, based on it being on a lot, not actually touching each other. I mean, if they're touching each other, they're on the same lot, but you can have like 3 standalone properties all on the same lot. And if they're on the same lot, that's considered a multi-family property. So potentially you can buy like a triplex if there's 3 homes in the property, or there's like a triplex where there's one standalone unit and basically 2 attached units, which you may look at as a duplex, but that's all considered a triplex if they're all on the same lot. So that's a scenario where the underwriter's like, okay, hey, this person is sharing a wall with somebody in a duplex. They're moving to a triplex, but it is one of those units is a standalone unit, and they're going to be living in that unit. Okay, I see they're upgrading their living conditions. We're going to work with that. And then third but not least is you're just getting a bigger place. I mean, let's say you're in a small duplex where the units are, let's say 600, 700 square feet per unit, and you're moving into like a triplex where somehow like the I don't know, maybe it's like 1,500 square feet or the units, like it's some big building or something like that, a loft situation or something like that. That's considered, okay, this person is moving into a place that's clearly 2, maybe 3 times the square footage of where they live now. That's a clear upgrade. But if you're going from like a 800 to a 850 or 900 or something like that, that's not considered like a clear upgrade in your living conditions. Or if you're moving from like a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom, especially if you go back and see my other video on the 12 doors in 12 months video. Like, let's say, hey, you've moved in with somebody, you're especially if you're married and like, hey, or you have a kid or something like that. It's like, hey, this person needs more space. This new unit they're moving to is giving them more space, more bedrooms, something like that. And so that's essentially how like the exceptions potentially work. And so why do you want to go 4, 3, 2, 1 anyways, build your buy until you get to your dream home? One, in theory, what happens is if you're finding a cash flowing 4-unit property, and I always say if it's a nice cash flowing 4-unit property, why is somebody giving it up in the first place? So you got to kind of get lucky there. But you're using the rent from that 4-plex. You're a little bit uncomfortable in a 4-plex property. It's like a big apartment building essentially, and then but you're using that sacrifice for 1 or 2 years, and then you want to sacrifice again, goes to that triplex, get a little bit more space, I guess 1 less neighbor in that triplex, and then you go to the duplex where typically duplexes are a lot bigger. I mean, that's where you're realistically looking at maybe 1,500 square feet or 3-bedroom duplex or something like that, and then so you sacrifice there, and so the rental income from all 3 of those units, so you got 4, 3, 2, that's 7, that's 9 units, 9 doors. So you should be having a pretty big piece of cash flow from those 3 units that actually ends up paying for your eventual dream home. So a lot of times folks say, hey, we want to start with the picket fence and all that, and start off with your dream home. You want to work the other way around, and especially if you're a little bit younger, and you don't have to worry about kids or something like that. You can sacrifice your 20s to live the good life in your 30s with those units paying for the other units. So yeah, that's kind of it. So I always kind of tell my personal experience. So I didn't have a me to listen to, so luckily I purchased, like, so I was in the military, and so I was moving around a lot, so luckily I purchased just kind of like condos as far as kind of doing that. So like you go from 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 as far as condos, which helped kind of pay for things in the end for me. But yeah, if I could start it all over again, I would definitely shoot for that 4-plex, with the goal of having that 4-plex paying for the then the 3-plex, duplex, 1-plex. And so once again, this is theory. You can go 3, 3, you can go 3, 3, 3, you can go 3, 2, 2, 2. But like I said, it's just hard to go from 2 to 3 or 2 to 4. So once again, 4, 3, 2, 1. You don't have to go that way, but understand the theory behind this move when you're planning your portfolio and looking to purchase a home. So yeah, that's really it. If you're watching on YouTube or the podcast, you can tap out at this point. These videos need to go 10 minutes. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what should I talk about? I'll talk about buying a single family property and house hacking that, or getting rental income from that. So there's a couple ways. There's a platform called Peerspace, where you can rent out units by the you can rent out bedrooms by the, or literally rooms by the hour. You can rent out like your kitchen, you can rent out your backyard, you can rent out your porch by the hour to get income that way. you can obviously, rent out, a bedroom on Airbnb. As far as that, if you're like super comfortable with folks doing that, you can obviously rent out a bedroom to a tenant. As far as doing that as well. So, yeah, that's really it. Appreciate you guys watching. We're at the 10-minute mark of this video. So, see you guys next week. Like I said, if you listen this long, you're really dedicated to the show. I appreciate it. So, share this with a friend. The more you share, the more likes and views stuff I get, the more content I get to make for you guys, because I get to eventually monetize that. Because honestly, this is what it's about. It's about monetizing this content so I can bring you guys more content for free to you. So that's it. Thanks.